you visited Martin Nnamdi Kanu. We would want to get highlights of that because, of course, we saw the dailies this morning running with certain lead stories. One was saying that Nnamdi Kanu says Simon Ekpa is aided by the federal government. Another one talks about the amount of trillions of naira that leaves the southeast, because of the banditry and the armed robbery, and over 50 armed groups in the region already. But let's start from your visit to Nnamdi Kanu.
Well, I'll start by thanking the director of the State Security Service for at least allowing me. It's one area of government that I visited, and it looked like you're in Europe. Good process. Nobody wasted your time. All the screening processes went, quite on time. And when it was time for me to go visit him, one or two persons escorted me to where I was supposed to meet with him. And I must admit, it's one of the most emotional times of my life. First, that I saw a very brilliant Nigerian, extraordinarily brilliant Nigerian, well-spoken, very, very intelligent, who knew what he was fighting for. And we embraced ourselves more than 10 times. It became very, very touchy for both of us. And I asked him, why did you invite me? He said, because he knows I will say the truth of what he has told others and they didn't want to believe. So the essence of it was that he wanted me to tell, especially the Southeasterners, that he does not support the sit-at-home in any form. If they did it once as a symbolic gesture, yes, it's appreciated, but not to make it a regular feature, from 1 day to 1 week to 2 weeks. Now, who does that to his own people? That if Ebe or whomsoever he is supporting him, you don't create a double jeopardy for our people. Every Monday, nobody does anything. Some people depend on either their wheelbarrows or trucks or keke to make a living, to maintain their families. How can he be inflicting pain on his people? It's a very simple thing. And that the handwritten note that was circulated, that he wrote it. That is not fake. He wrote it, that I should say so. That he does not support it. So I promised him that I'm not getting any younger. I will try to make out time to go to Finland. I've already sent messages because this is not the time of warmongering now. And I have to see this Ebe and say, what's your problem? Because if he doesn't listen, I've seen the reply he made, which gives me the tendency to believe that some people are sponsoring him. If you want to be leader of your people, will you be leader of the dead or the living? He's from a Ebonyi State, I understand. And the other day I was looking on social media where people supposedly representing him were firing all over the place. And a small child of under 1 year was abandoned by his or her parents, and they ran away. And I was just most weeping, praying God, let bullet not touch this small child. And I hope nothing happened to him or her. Is that the nature of the leadership? And this is the worry. These are the worries that Nnamdi Kanu has.
So he's not aware of Simon Ekpa's, representation of him.
He knows that Simon Ekpa was supporting him because of the interest of justice. But they have thrown it into another dimension. Because I read what he was saying, that he's Prime Minister of Biafra in exile. It's sad for me. Not after fighting for Biafra, and somebody tells me you're Prime Minister in exile, where you're taking orange juice, you're a citizen of Finland, living comfortably in security, and your people here are almost in desolate, nothing to eat, no petrol, nothing, and you're still threatening them that they won't go to work on Monday. Is that love? It is not love. This is where Nnamdi Kanu disagrees completely with what they are doing. And he said I should say so, that he does not support sit-at-home, that their people should be allowed to make a living. He stands for justice, but you cannot have justice without peace. You have to address peace by addressing justice. So it's a problem. Oh. And like I said, I've started the contact making. I probably will wait until the tribunal, verdict is out. Yesterday I spent time trying to get in touch with the Finnish embassy to see how I can get, because I need to go and see the young man and really find out what is going on with him. Because our people cannot continue this way. We can't continue this way.
All right, so in essence, people would say Simon Ekpa is hiding away under the protection of the Finland government, and the sit-at-home is happening here, lives have been lost, and he's covered and embraced by the protection he enjoys away from Nigeria. But then you also find out this man may not be acting in isolation. There are young people here who take orders from him, who are maiming, who are looting, who are the ones carrying out the damage. So how does the state come into this play? Because I know that oftentimes several governors, one was the last comment from Governor Hope Uzodinma, who said they should ask Simon Ekpa to return home, to sit at home with them if he needs to enforce that law. So what is the role? I mean, what has been the role of the government, speaking for Nnamdi and also trying to end this saga?
If you remember, maybe about a year ago on this platform, I had said if we had serious governance in the Southeast, I don't care whether you're APC, PDP, now we have two APC governments, one APGA, one PDP, and one Labour. I'm not interested in the nomenclature of where you're coming from. I'm interested in seeing the 5 governors we have sit down and know that the protection of our people lies squarely on their hands. This crying of Sana did that, these are because there are lacunas here and there that they are exploiting. If a governor is in charge, if I'm in charge of a state, I bet you cannot enter my state and just do anything you like. You can't. You can't. It just means that people are not using their brain. Because people voted for you, you're part of that state, you know what is going on in that state. Once in a while, one or two persons can smuggle themselves into the state and do one or two nonsense and escape, but it won't be a regular feature. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I was seeing the social media where a Reverend sister was almost, bastardized, beaten up, her face swollen in Anambra State. Reverend fathers are kidnapped, some killed. So it become a way of life. Our governors have to decide. It's not a matter of Hope Uzodinma talking and Enugu governor talking and that one. They have to have a concerted effort. Come to the federal government, because the whole problem, people are also exploiting the fact that Nnamdi Kanu is detained. And they push it under that is what they are fighting for. Which is unfortunate. Because if our 5 governors and 15 senators and our members of the federal house have effectively pushed this government, and by this government I mean from Buhari's government, what is the offense of Nnamdi Kanu? I asked. Nobody has been able to tell me. When some Igbo leaders met Buhari, he said that the judicial process has to take its course. The judicial process took its course, and the Court of Appeal, of all courts, discharged him of all the charges against him. For the first time in the history of any legal process in the world, Malami, who was then the most dishonest attorney general this country has ever had, ran to a judge, and I think that judge is now the chairman of the Presidential Appeal Committee, ran to him, and he granted an order for keeping Nnamdi Kanu in detention. It's unheard of anywhere in law. So you don't understand really what is going on in this country, that nobody is interested in obeying the rule of law, because I believe the processes Tinubu has passed in his life, especially the fight he joined Abiola to do in 2020 election, he should be one person to appreciate what rule of law means. And I have said this once or twice, and I don't think he's appreciating what it means. Because if he releases this boy, he will be a walking piece of history. He will be a walking piece of history if he releases this boy. He's not releasing him because he likes his faith, but because the courts have said so. And I believe either a President Atiku Abubakar or a President Peter Obi will release him. They will obey the rule of law. There's no reason why that boy will be languishing in prison. I was happy that he has made me to be his political advisor, telling what is going on in his place and what for us to do to move our people forward. And it's a job I have gladly accepted to do for him. And I'll try as much as possible to see him from time to time. But to be able to coordinate it, I have to travel to Finland to see this man and know what his problem is. I mean, stay in the South. People don't come home. Our young men and women don't come home anymore. All wedding ceremonies. This is one festival Igbos enjoy. Wine carrying, wedding. Everybody in the village is expectant of that. It doesn't happen anymore. We're now doing it in Lagos and in other cities. It's unfortunate for somebody to tell his people not to move out on Monday. It's a pity.
Okay, I mean, in terms of the facts and history, some people would also say, especially some scholars, historians, such as yourself, would go back in memory to the year 2003 when Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu visited, I beg your pardon, Ojukwu visited Buhari in Daura, and they had a conversation. And one of the things that came out of that analysis was that Nigeria must remain one, and the hate messages must end. However, with the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu, does it seem like that conversation is being practiced in real time?
If you remember, that I mentioned that on this platform about 2 years ago. I said, we were 6 of us, General Odumegwu Ojukwu, invited to tell us that the Buhari had asked him to come to Buhari to discuss about the future of this country. And the other 5 said no, that he wasn't going to. I was the only one who said, go. Igbos have a saying that whatever is in your stomach does not smell until you pass it out. So go to him, listen to him, and know where he's coming from. And he went and spent 2 days with him in Buhari's house. They had a 5-point understanding. Unfortunately, Ojukwu died later. Buhari could not even as much as attend the funeral of Ojukwu. And none of those 5 points did he make an attempt after being president of. Because when he invited him, he wasn't president. It was just ordinary Buhari. Then he became president. None of those 5 agendas they agreed upon to push this country forward. And one of them specifically said how the Southeast will be seriously put into the mainstream of the Nigerian political process. And he agreed to that. Probably the only attempt he made was probably using Igbos as his vice presidential candidate at each point in time. But after that, what next? All he now did was to his stoking paranoia and hatred. The achievement of putting Nnamdi Kanu in detention now for 4 years going, kidnapping a young man from Kenya, when a government plans to kidnap people, just like they kidnapped former Minister of Transport under Shagari, what is the name of that chap from Kaduna? The mathematician, the brilliant top minister, Omar Diko. They kidnapped him from London. So this government is now known for kidnapping people. And they spend millions of dollars to their elements in Kanu who helped them to kidnap Nnamdi Kanu. So that is the success of Buhari, to kidnap a citizen. Why? Because he's talking about justice for his people. Is that a crime? You may not like his methodology. All Nnamdi Kanu represents is the unjust processes against our people for the past 50 years. And with people we have in government don't appear to understand what is going on. Now they can't go home. Now it is coming down to everybody what the problem is all about. So Nnamdi Kanu is not on his own in what he's saying. After seeing him 2 days ago, I committed myself that I will give support to try to see how our place can be a lot better. Igbos don't destroy. Those who built don't destroy. So nobody can accuse us of being part of a destructive process. Nnamdi Kanu cannot be an exception. He's a boy who loves the interests of this country and especially the interests of his people. All he's asking, put us as part of the system. And if you don't want us to be part of the system, then allow us to be on our own. You cannot be taller than me and be shorter than me at the same time. If we are not part of it, because the 8 years of Buhari, we were not part of the system. And the strongest part of government is the National Security Council. There was nobody from Southeast who was in that council for 8 years. That is where the strategic decisions of every country is taken. So when you come to the Southeast now, it's occupied by military people you don't know where they're coming from. If there are 20,000 mobile policemen or policemen in general in the Southeast, not up to 100 of them are Igbos. So also soldiers. But you see, the exciting thing about it is that it does not stop our people from giving them arms, water, bread, and everything. Because now soldiers refuse to do what they are told to do. Every time I come out at any checkpoint, I will give them money. I deliberately do that. By this is not what they told us the Igbos are. These are the most benevolent people we have ever seen. They are so happy about it. So, but all these rascals under Ekpe or whomsoever go about, and like Nnamdi Kanu told me, that he's against anybody killing a security officer who is supposed to protect law and order. And once that is done, they ascribe it back to iPod. This is unfair.
Now, I hear you say that most of them are not of the southeastern origin. I mean, you talked about some of the military there, but some people have also argued that the Southeast region has turned into a war zone without any external aggressor. What they mean by this is that they have enemies within that they created by themselves because of the sit-at-home and of course the declaration by Simon Ekpa. So how do you look at those who are of the descent, who are of the origin of the Igbos, and how do they get reevaluation of what they're doing, and then perhaps some sense of reorientation? Some people have said, well, is the lack of job, is the lack of incentive, is the anger perhaps for some, and of course remember we had the prison break in Imo State and several parts, some years back. So really, is there a collaboration, even with those within which we've mentioned that are not of the Igbo descent, with those of the Igbo descent within?
Well, I will address that by first saying the nature of leadership we now have in the Southeast. It's pretty unfortunate because we have presidents, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Emaya Okpara, Alvan Ikoku, SG Koku, Simon Bakwe, Dr. Nwafo Rizo, Dr. Alex Ekweme, even in recent times, Jim Mobodo. Come to Anambra and see what Ngige did as governor, even though that election was one kind. What Peter Obi did as governor. We have presidencies of Igbo leadership that works. Why is it that the present leadership in the 5 states are not working together to be able to protect our people? That's what I'm saying. If they sit down together, they can use your head with all our technocrats to see how our place can be protected. Look at what's going on. It's not just in Southeast. Look at the herdsmen problem in Benue Plateau. The bandits in Northwest. The Boko Haram in Northeast. We're a country of violent nomenclatures now. Every day, hundreds of people are killed. We're even better in the South. It's only occasional that you hear that 1 or 2 persons are killed here and there. But look at the rest of the country. And when I hear the IG of police, talk, he has not stayed 1 month in the office. He's now a field general already. Maybe he knew what was going on. Now he's given an opportunity. Let us see how he's going to handle the problem. But I can tell you, there will be no peace without dialogue. Whether you call them bandits or iPod or Boko Haram, this government must be prepared to dialogue with people. Because there is all grievances are, all conflicts, all protests are about unresolved grievances. Once you see a protest, it is happening today. Labour Congress, TUC, they are striking. It's not a cup of tea. There must be unresolved grievances that is forcing people to strike. How can they buy petrol? How can they buy foodstuff? These are calling down, and you look at them going to work. Somebody told me when I came in for my party meeting on Saturday that this is how Tinubu goes to work. I said it's not true. And I deliberately took a vehicle to stand in that route he goes to work. And I was there for 55 minutes. And an entourage of nearly 60 vehicles. 60 vehicles. He passed with 60 vehicles. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I was making a broker telling her to be patient. How can we be patient for those who are dying? And I was looking at the Speaker of the Federal House and the President of the Senate coming to work in a luxurious Mercedes. You don't know where they flew it in from. These are people who, most of their states have been flooded with water. So it is unfortunate, the kind of leadership we have. Are they coming from villages? Do they fall from the air? And then Nnamdi Kanu becomes the issue. How can the young man become the issue? When the youth of this country have been abandoned to their fate, anything that happens, they send Nnamdi Kanu. Why? Because he's asking for justice for his people? Is that it? If that is terror, and I so declare, he is not a terrorist. If defending the interests of your people is terrorism, let me be counted as one of them.
Because, I take this word from your mouth. A lot of democracy advocates and activists, including Showere and many, have said that Nnamdi Kanu is a political prisoner. Yes. Some have called him a prisoner of conscience. And some have said if they allow him to die in prison or incarcerated, he becomes a martyr. So I know you visited him, you spoke to him. What kind of state is he in? What is his health status?
Well, I'm not medical. My wife is a professor of medicine. That does not give me the advantage of being a doctor, but he spoke so brilliantly. He was very happy seeing me. So he was looking hale and hearty, and it gave me a lot of joy. And he said, Uncle, if you will be coming from time to time, you will make me a lot happier. And I promised him, once they will allow me to come, I will be coming to see him until we're able to sort out this problem. Because I told them, if this government was a little intelligent, if they bring out Nnamdi Kanu today, there will be 80% peace in the Southeast. Let me not say 100%. There will be more than 80% peace in the southeast.
So remaining 20%.
Remaining 20%,
So where
which
will that
can
come
be managed.
from?
That one will be easy to manage. Because a lot of people are basing the argument of the local violence here. Nnamdi Kanu is being detained. Let them get him out. Because the court has discharged him. He's no more under any legal stronghold of government. He has been discharged by a court of competent jurisdiction, the appeal court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let them bring him out. I guarantee that.
Do you think the federal government is weary of something? Is there something that they're not saying that they're afraid of if Nnamdi Kanu gets released? Or is there more to it than Mr. Yai?
I don't want to go back to Buhari. It is hatred. All these things revolves about Muhammadu Buhari. And I tell you, honestly. Because if you check the course of how, after the 1984 coup, what he did, he put Buhari, Shagari in a guest house and put Ekweme in what is this prison in the prison in Apapa? This horrible prison in Apapa.
Kiri.
That's why he put him. Until Babangida then came and brought him out. He accused Ekweme of being involved in everything NPN did. They came out to see that the money the man had before he went in, he used more than half of it, paying for people's school fees. Never awarded one contract, never received a kobo. This same Buhari. And now he's 8 years. As chairman of PTF, not one project did he do in the whole of Eastern region. Not one. Apart from buying a few vehicles for teaching hospitals. But go to Kaduna and Lagos and see what they use PTF money to do. 8 years of his governance. Tell me what happens in our place than stampeding and taking over the whole place with the military. He wasn't prepared to discuss with anybody. 8 years. Put Nigeria 20 years back. Even his people are suffering. His own state, his own zone is in crisis. His own zone is violent prone. So what kind of a leader is he that looks for presidency for nearly 13 years and got it and didn't know what to do with power? So we have a problem that is fundamental in this country. And I don't know how it's going to be solved.
Well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president now,
Yes.
and the bulk of the decision stops on his table.
Yes,
He
yes.
takes the final say. Are you hopeful that perhaps under his administration, Nnamdi Kanu may see the light outside the incarceration and the prison? Yes.
You know, what I was saying to a friend yesterday, I remember in 1967, we were training at what is now 82 Division. It used to be 1 battalion headquarters, Nigerian Army. We were training. Suddenly, they said that we should stop. And we looked behind us. It was Major Chukwuma Kaduna Zogu, Major Onwategu, Major Ifajina. There was one Yoruba major, Captain Ihan Asho, Captain Nwobosi. All these are dead now. And it was a beauty looking at them. They encouraged us to do what we were doing. 1 hour after that, we started our training. About 4 o'clock in the evening, some 2-3 vehicles moved in. And coming out of that vehicle was one top government official and our Chief Abafemi Awolowo. They had just brought him out from Calabar prison and brought him into Enugu with helicopter. That was the day he made that famous speech that if the East was allowed to go, the West will also go. And Ojukwu said he will send him back to Lagos.
All right, I will hold you on that thought. I'm not allowing you to go yet. I'll just take a quick break. And then when we come last visit to Mazi, of course, Nnamdi Kanu, and we continue with that and as we round up. Let me come back to you, Chief. A lot of people, I know I asked you this somehow, but someone also has put it true that perhaps the only way to go about this is to have a political solution, have the president discuss with the elites from the Southeast. But do you think that they are prepared to do that, considering the fact that, one, the president also is in court trying to have, an outcome from that process? Do you think that there will be some sense of dedication to it in this interim?
Well, I was trying to say something about Awolowo.
Yes.
What Ojukwu did. It wasn't, he was sentenced to life imprisonment and kept in Calabar prison. They had killed the Ulasi, but Ojukwu brought him out from that prison into Enugu, and that was where he made the famous statement, if the East is allowed to go, the West will also go. Even though most leaders of the East then told Ojukwu, let him stay here for some time, let's see what Gowon is doing in Lagos. He refused and said he should go. As soon as he landed Lagos, they made him Minister of Finance and Vice Chairman of the Federal Executive Council. And he used starvation as an instrument of war. At the end of the war, they gave us 20 pounds. That was not enough. That shows the attitude, the good attitude, the love of the Igbo man for the rest of this country. When MKO Abiola was fighting for his June 12th election, do you know the number of top Igbos who were joined by most Yorubas, including Bola Tinubu, going around the whole country, fighting for MKO to retrieve his mandate? If Tinubu remembers that, he should be able to sit down and look at the legal process. This man has gone to appeal court, and the appeal court has discharged him of every crime. You release him. If the government wants, let them go on appeal to the Supreme Court. They haven't done that. But they're detaining him. This is causing more insecurity in the southeast and the rest of the country. So my advice is that, no anybody who is prepared to make a change, to make things better, you have to be prepared to challenge things that are not good enough. That is what Nnamdi Kanu is doing. That's the only way. If you don't challenge things that are not good enough, you can't make anything better. And the best form of victory is that of peace, not war. Talking does not kill anybody. When somebody talks, you know what comes out of his mind, then you'll be able to dialogue with him. We're not talking of the labor union. If this government is serious, because they are part of the last government, why are people blaming Tinubu? During his campaign, he said that Buhari did so very well that he was going to continue with Buhari's successes. That's what he told Nigerians. If nothing else, I remember that. I watched him say that. So if Tinubu believed that Buhari was wonderful, then that's a serious concern for the rest of us. Because that was the worst government this country has ever seen. In terms of hatred, stoking hatred and paranoia everywhere. The only way there is peace in this country is sharing of money. I was hearing Rena now talking about the National Assembly. Why should Labour people talk there? They won't talk. Because everybody is sharing money. It's only in sharing and stealing of money that unity in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nobody is talking of infrastructure. Nobody is talking that in 774 local governments, water is not running anywhere. Water is not running anywhere, including those who are governors. Isn't that a pity? And they are talking of going to a fight in Niger. And they're crazy. I have read what about 3 or 4 countries that have military governments in them have threatened them or asked them, let them try it. So look, I think we have to have a reorganization, a mental reorganization of the whole processes of governance in this country. This money is becoming too much. Because if you look at the suffering Nigerians are passing through, and yesterday I was watching Akpabio coming to work with a Mercedes that will not be, only God knows the amount of money they used to buy it. And you can see the exuberance of somebody whose brothers and sisters are suffering and dying in this country. The speaker comes in the same manner. The president goes to work in the same manner. And you want people to be patient. As they are patient, they are dying. And then the person who talks for justice about his people, you detain Nnamdi Kanu. That is the success of APC government. And there were people from the southeast who were in that government for 8 years. They never opened their mouth any day to talk about it. What has he done? And the people don't even know that when he was kidnapped in Kenya, they injected something into his body for nearly 8 hours. They thought he had died. And God brought him to life. That young man has passed through a lot of problems that our people should give him support. Because he's not asking for anything unusual. What is he asking? Let us be included in the process called Nigeria if he's going to work. And I have once said here that what is happening now shows that Gowon was right after all. When they overthrew Ironsi, it was the first statement he was that there was no basis for Nigerian unity. That was Yakubu Gowon. No basis for Nigerian unity. And it was this Awolowo, they all gathered around and said, why? What are you talking about? And he changed that to make Nigeria one is something that must be done. That is where we are.
Okay, in the 24th of July, Enugu residents, members came out from Michael Okpara and proceeded to the rest of the town protesting the sit-at-home. And of course, we saw Governor Mba say that enough of the sit-at-home and people should come out and do their business as usual. Some also have also said, in line with that, a massive protest is better than sitting at home that the Easterners cannot sit at home for 1,000,000 years and continue to expect anything to be different. And even if they sit at home for 1,000 days, Nnamdi Kanu may not be released just based on that notion. So the call for other states to begin to look at internal mechanisms to resolving the sit at home has been called for, such as protest. But is that the way out? I mean, we saw that happen in Enugu. There were no casualties, but other states are looking to taking that toll. What do you recommend?
Well, there has to be an organized way. That's what I said. The 5 governors must sit down and have a common purpose, a common procedure of what they want to do. There has to be a vision and how to make it possible for them to do what they want to do. It's a matter of implementation.
Here's the plot synopsis.
The citizens are afraid because 1, 2, 3 persons have been killed here and there. You know, so nobody wants to be a victim. If you tell them go to work, but you telling them to go to work, you are moving with 20 mobile police, with army and air force. All our legislators from the southeast, you don't see any one of them. They are moving with armored vehicles, mobile police and army. And you're telling the common man go to work. So the governors must, I continue calling on our 5 governors, must sit down to show how we can implement that process in the 5 states, especially in rural areas where there are no protection for the common person. And these are the places they go to start shooting at people.
I must thank you for